Murphy.
Could you guys hear and see me before?
No.
It was like one of those dreams where you're desperately trying to be heard and seen.
Oh,
The world is conspiring against you.
I think it's called technology. I'm very sorry.
That's okay.
So Mayor Murphy, welcome. Thank you so much. We've got a presentation for you. And,
Sure.
And then what we'll do is we'll do our presentation. And then if you have questions, we can answer them.
Okay. I'm going to take you with me while I get a pad, but start it.
Okay. And is everybody cool that, Gabe, are you recording?
Yes, I have
Okay, great.
all set. Dylan,
All right, we need to start.
whenever you're ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
So, all right, well, thank you, Mayor Murphy, for being here. Thank you, Gabe, for introducing us to Mayor Murphy. Through prior conversations with you, Mayor, and Town Supervisor Nancy Seligson, we, Action Research for Community Change, have been on a year-long journey to try to better understand community perspectives as they relate to gas-powered leaf blowers. So how did we do that? Well, to understand that,
Sorry, Dylan, what did you say? As they relate to what?
as they relate to gas-powered leaf blowers.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you a brief overview of Action Research as a group, just to try to better understand how we were able to do that. So Action Research is a social science think tank composed of Rhinex students that conducts community-based social science research for local organizations as a basis for policy development. So it's based on student change for research, a work authored by Dr. Feit and Dr. William Tobin, who's a sociologist at Duke. Action Research uses social science research methods that are used across academic disciplines, in business, and in our personal lives as a means to make evidence-based analytical and ethical suggestions. We have weekly research meetings that are conducted in a seminar format with experienced researchers modeling practices for newcomers. We very much emphasize the idea that everyone's ideas are very important. And in the past few years, Action Research has tackled the issues of hunger, perspectives on climate change and clean water, access to housing and transportation for underserved communities, parental attitudes towards student stress, and this year, Village of Mamaroneck residents' perspectives on the use and limitations placed on gas-powered leaf blowers.
What's our process? Well, Action Research typically interviews community members and leaders to identify actionable challenges for which our research would provide valuable insights and empirical evidence to support policy change. This year, we met with Town Supervisor Seligson of the Town of Mamaroneck and you, Mayor Murphy, of the Village of Mamaroneck, who had heard about Largemont's legislation banning gasoline-powered leaf blowers. We also interviewed a community member who is a strong environmental leader. What we learned was that even with clear knowledge of the issues that leaf blowers cause, for example, asthma, other people's self-interest, for example, people who prefer to hire landscapers over doing the work themselves, may cause a dichotomy between what is in the interest of the common good and an individual's decision-making. Leaf blowers are very interesting to us because of a multitude of related issues that they invoke, specifically environmental and human concerns, including emissions, particulates, damage to insect populations, noise, and health impacts to local residents and the workers who use leaf blowers. Our prior research that we've conducted showed that time and time again, self-interest drives decision-making. For example, our climate research showed that the more information people have about the climate, and the need to change their habits, the less inclined they are to do so. It is overwhelming to them and to us, and it leads to an action compounded by the belief that individual actions don't make a difference on the greater whole. Based on our discussions, we arrived at our research question. What are the perspectives of homeowners on gasoline-powered leaf blowers in the Village of Mamaroneck, New York?
Once we had our definitive research question, we began with our literature review. Our literature review aimed to answer questions such as, how have other people in similar situations tackled similar issues, and what were their experiences, what did they do, and what did they find out? Through reading multiple articles that range from newspaper reports, websites, and research journals, we gained a comprehensive understanding of the issues and impacts of gas-powered leaf blowers. Across the board, it was clear that the negative impacts far outweighed the positives. Legislation and initiatives to limit the use of leaf blowers are not uncommon. In fact, Larchmont passed a strict ban on gas-powered leaf blowers last year. As ABC7 described, residents were directed to notify their gardeners about the ban, and the ban was for all properties, both residential and commercial. Landscapers say the blowers might have to be supplemented by old-fashioned raking, and according to some, this additional time could cost their clients. But those in favor of the gas-powered leaf blower ban cited environmental emissions and the destruction of insect and wildlife habitats that they say are critical to pollination in our area. Studies have shown the emissions from two-stroke gasoline engines in 1 hour are comparable to that of 17 cars or 7,800 miles traveled by the average sedan. In addition, the hurricane force winds stir up breathable particles and damage topsoil. And then there's the ear-splitting noise, which has become more of an issue during the pandemic because many people are working and going to school from home. Violators of the ban face fines, and not just those operating the equipment. Homeowners who hire them could also be ticketed as well. Therefore, Larchmont residents decided that a total ban of gas-powered leaf blowers was the best decision. But the question remained, would residents of the village of Mamaroneck follow their neighbors to the south and vote in stronger restrictions or a ban on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers? To answer our research question, we also needed to get to the heart of the matter by asking local residents about their knowledge, perceptions, and actions as they related to the use of gas-powered leaf blowers.
At this point in our research, we felt we had enough background to find out how residents feel and what they know about gas-powered leaf blowers. Generally, social scientists have two primary tools to use to gather unbiased information. We have qualitative research, which includes direct observation, speaking to people in the ongoing context of an issue, focus groups, or interviews. Quantitative research can also provide a feel for what is going on, as well as providing data that can be mined for recurrent themes and patterns. We also used quantitative research, which requires us to gather numerical data through surveys. In its most basic form, quantitative data provides information about the frequency of themes or patterns, demographic characteristics, and the significance of findings. Due to COVID, we were limited to survey data. However, we included a qualitative question in our survey to gain insights into the level of knowledge and awareness our respondents had. Survey construction took a long time to complete since we had to eliminate bias to target specific information that would answer the research question. It was a prolonged process ensuring each and every question did not have the potential to lead respondents to a specific answer or discourage respondents from filling out the survey at all. Public patience with surveys is limited. If a survey takes too much time to complete, people are more likely to pass it by. Our target was 3 minutes or less to complete the survey.
Once the survey was completed, Laurel Ryan, Rhinex PTSA president, distributed it to all members of the organization on a Google form. The first 72 hours after sending the survey are critical because that is the window of time when people are reading a particular group of incoming emails and backtracking to prior days. We received 139 responses from 1,200 families, or an 11.8 response rate. This is very high. Online surveys generally produce only 2% response rates. Our response rate was enhanced by parents who are sympathetic to Rhineck High School students and want to help us. Once the responses came in, Google Forms provides a series of pie charts that show the frequency of responses. We will bring up those demographics for you to see right now. For example, in terms of residents, 86.4% of respondents lived within the village of Mamaroneck, meaning this survey is very well representative of residents in the village.
Our survey focused on 3 pieces of crucial information. The first one was the respondents' financial relationship to their home, specifically whether they own or rent. I'll bring this up. Great. Specifically whether they own or rent. We found that 92.9% of respondents own their home, which is a really high number, which is representative similarly of this community. And this is important because those who own their homes are more likely to have a vested interest in the municipal regulations affecting their lawn care. The second factor that we examined was who takes care of the exterior of their home. This is similarly crucial. At the heart of our study is how people care about changes in regulations that affect how their lawns can be cared for, who takes care of their who takes care of the exterior of their house gets to that. Here we can see that 57.9% of respondents hire a company and 36.4% do it themselves. While a majority of the respondents do outsource to companies to take care of their lawns, it's important to note that all but 5.7% of respondents have a personal stake in the care of the exterior of their homes. The third factor that we viewed as very important is the degree of civic engagement, as demonstrated by following local legislation and participation in local elections. In our survey, we found that approximately 82% of respondents demonstrated civic engagement by following changes in local legislation. Up to 84% of respondents demonstrated civic engagement by following changes in municipal government by voting in local elections. With the raw data in hand, we began to analyze it. Looking at the question, are you aware of the risks associated with leaf blowers? We can see that the vast majority of respondents, 65.7% of them, are aware of the risks. I'll leave this slide up for a little bit. Of all the respondents who filled out the survey, 65.9% of them favored legislation that would further limit the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers. And here's this slide if you want to examine the data. Even if we filter it for Village of Mamaroneck residency, 65.5% of residents still favored legislation, meaning in our survey, residency is independent of someone's stance on leaf blowers, as shown here. As we begin comparing data sets, we can see that even among those who hire a lawn care company, who perhaps the cost of a ban would be imposed upon most, 63.6% of respondents still favor limiting the use of gasoline-powered leaf blowers. Interestingly, whether someone favors or opposes legislation limiting gasoline-powered leaf blowers is independent of whether or not they vote in local elections. 64.3% of the most active members of our community, those who vote, still favor legislation, very similar to the 65% of the community as a whole.
It's only after the completion of the analysis that the data is considered in terms of the context, meaning, and significance. From this further analysis, we developed recommendations that we would share with village and town leaders. First, single-family homeowners comprise the majority of respondents. Presumably, they bear direct responsibility for the upkeep of their property, pay higher taxes, and there is no organization or employee, such as a super, that is a buffer between them and their neighbors.
Apartment dwellers are typically not responsible for lawn care, and as renters may feel less attachment to the issues surrounding property maintenance, their feelings about the legislation may be weaker.
Respondents appear aware of the dangers. Many listed multiple issues that they were aware of, such as pollution. However, no one mentioned landscape workers, which may have been primed by the word leaf blower. This is interesting to us since of the 86 respondents who wrote out specific risks associated with the leaf blowers, they focused on ones affecting them, the noise, the pollution, and ecological implications. While these do affect the workers, none of the respondents specifically pointed this out.
When a hired person does work, there is an assumption that they know what they are doing. For example, electrician work is dangerous. They are lessons, so we don't worry about it. Yet, workers who operate leaf blowers are different. Lawn care is a skill that requires no training and no insurance. Many of these laborers use leaf blowers may not even have employment authorization, meaning they have far fewer protections to case of accidents and have very little power to against safety protocols within their house.
I apologize for the technology today. It seems to have been affecting us all. Here's that slide that got deleted earlier. Do you own or rent your home? And as I said, 93% approximately of residents do own their home. Legislation is not coupled with the worker impacts. It's just a general health focus for the community at large. The particulates may cause allergy, asthma, and are just detrimental to the neighborhood community as a whole. Furthermore, homeowners may be more concerned about their own families and their own children than the workers that they hire to do the work on their lawns.
Self-interest is the most likely driver for those who hire landscapers. Pride of place, ego, and common look or perception of that look acts as a confirmation bias. One person may have what others deem a perfect lawn, and that implies that neighbors should too, where they're not acting for the common good.
Many people are unable to feel the need to make a change until they see it directly impact them or their loved ones, families, and friends.
There is a disconnect between the homeowners and the landscape companies in that the homeowners don't voice their opinions to the landscaping companies. But this doesn't seem to be a conscious decision either. People don't think to voice their concerns.
Based upon the data in our survey and an analysis of it, we have a set of recommendations that we propose. First, public education. It is imperative if we want to do anything about the dangers of gasoline-powered leaf blowers to share with the community how dangerous they are, to push an education campaign of the awareness of the dangers of leaf blowers, of how they have ties to self-interest that might not actually be in their own self-interest, and appeals to human concerns. And what I mean by that is by hiring a leaf blower company to do our lawn, we are getting the lawn done maybe at a cheaper price, or maybe so we don't do it ourselves. But we also have the negative implications of what we're doing to ourselves when we're in the house and to the community itself for the long term. And it also doesn't even take into account the human concern that we should feel for the workers who are putting themselves in harm's way.
Larchmont legislation has proved successful in many ways, so why not emulate something similar in the village of Mamaroneck? This new legislation can easily conform to what already exists because we can have an emphasis on consistency throughout the area. The fact that this legislation was successful 3 miles away proves practicality of further limiting leaf blowers in Mamaroneck.
Furthermore, the COVID pandemic lockdown last spring created a unique set of circumstances, with many people working from home that likely has increased support for banning gasoline-powered leaf blowers, of which the vast majority of respondents support.
Future research is another potential solution, including the use of alternative strategies for clearing leaves. Letting leaves touch the lawn as well as the environment could prove valuable.
After all of our research, we think it's clear that integrating legislation similar to that of Larchmont into the village of Mamaroneck would be very beneficial.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't. But no, well, I might. But just let me tell you a couple of differences between us and Larchmont. The village of Mamaroneck bans leaf blowers, I believe, from May 15th until October. But we also ban electric leaf blowers. And the idea behind that had to do with particulate matter. I mean, it is an interesting idea. It is something that obviously we get a lot of complaints about. This year, what we did do is we went to every house and we put a flyer on every, not a flyer, door hanger on every door, talking about the leaf blower ban, talking about alternatives to blowing leaves, and talking about the responsibility that the homeowner has to tell their landscaper. It's not a bad idea. I wouldn't say I'm against it. It is just the demographics in Larchmont and Mamaroneck are different in terms of like how people maintain. We have a lot of people who do their own lawns, more so than Larchmont. And I know, what did you say that most of the people who responded to your solicitation, to your poll, were PTSA folks?
Yes. And of those, 36.4% do their own lawns, 57.9% hire a lawn care company.
Do you have the poll questions?
Yes.
Because you know what I'd like to do, if you don't mind? I mean, I'd like to put it out on the village's website.
Sure.
And see the response that we get. Because listen, I'll be honest with you, I think it's a good idea. And I wouldn't be against moving forward with it. But for me, I know how the world works in passing legislation in the village of Mamaroneck. Gabe, you can ask your mom, who has spent time on the board. And, the loudest voices and the most negative voices are who come to meetings. And, if people support the legislation, they read it and they go, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. And then they go about their lives. But the people who are against it are the people that come and are vociferous. So to kind of shield us from that, I would like to do more promotion and more outreach to the public. And I would hope to engage you young folks. Maybe come and do a presentation to the village board in July, if you're around. You guys around in July?
Some are and some aren't, but we can always try to rally the troops.
Okay. But can you send the poll?
Yeah, I'm preparing that now to send to you.
Okay, you are definitely efficient, Gabe. You really are. But in sum and substance, I'm in support of it. I can't think, as I sit here and as I listen to you, other than the inconvenience that some people are going to voice, I can't think of a good reason to be against something like this. The idea that an hour of this is equal to 17 cars on a road, that to me, that was a really good point. And imagine a poor guy who has this thing on his back and he's sucking in that intense, carbon monoxide or dioxide, which is it? You guys probably know, I don't.
It's interesting you should mention that, Mayor, because the human rights concern is really significant.
So we could kind of attack it on both fronts, but I'm in support of it. As I sit here, I can't think of a reason to be against it, other than, I know people are going to scream about it, but that's why they paid me the big bucks.
I just sent it to you.
Okay, I will have Sally Roberts, who was involved in our emailing before, put it online.
Thank you.
And I will promote it via social media.
Thank you.
And hopefully, hopefully we can get it on the agenda for, at least for the fall. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
You.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell me or teach me?
We just really appreciate that you shared the challenge with the leaf blowers with us. We had an extremely interesting year looking into this issue, and we appreciate the time you've just taken to listen to our presentation. And we have recorded it, so if you would like the recording, we were also happy to share it with you.
Yeah, share the recording with me too, and I'll put that online too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I might have to edit it for content. No, I'm kidding. Some of the things I said. That's all right. No, you're a great group of young folks, and I really appreciate what you've done here.
Okay.
And for those of you who are going off to college, good luck. And you are exemplars of what we create here in the community. I always tell people our biggest export is smart children. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that I couldn't get on the technology before.
That's all right. We're so happy you're here. Thank you for coming. And thank you, all of you. These young researchers did a ton of work, and I just want to let you know how much I appreciate everything that you guys did. So, all right, signing off.
Thank you, folks. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So much.
So I just want to say that you did a spectacular job.